Hello everyone, and welcome to a special episode of HermitCraft. Fun fact for you, this is the first episode ever that I haven't edited. It was put together by the Puka, who also did my 2-hour Road to 1 Million special, which was like a history of the entire channel. If that sounds interesting to you, it'll be linked in the description box down below. But this episode is about #Hermit questions, which I asked all of you to type in the comments of episode 848. I've picked out 99 questions that you have asked about Hermitcraft, and in this video we're answering all of them. So if you like the concept, be sure to leave a like, and now let's just jump straight into it. Why oh why is it called Hermitcraft? Well, Hermitcraft was started by Generikb, and he referred to himself as the gaming hermit, or just calling himself a hermit in general. And so when he gave the server a name, he decided to call it Hermitcraft. How did Hermitcraft start? It started back in April of 2012, and Generikb was simply looking to gather a bunch of other YouTubers, create a server together to play Minecraft, and that's pretty much it. That's where it started. How many people are on the server / are hermits? Well, we currently have 27 hermits in total, and there are some people who are inactive and not playing on the server. And if you go to the website, you can actually see it's been split. So if ever you want to see all of the hermits, there is the members list, and then we have the inactive hermits for those that are currently not playing on a season. Who owns the HermitCraft server? The reality is there isn't one. I mean, technically the server, the physical server, is in my name. But as a group, we all run it together, we all make collective decisions, and we talk and communicate about what we want Hermitcraft to be and where it's going. And so there isn't actually an owner, air quotes. It's not how we run things. If Generikb started the Hermitcraft server, how, when, and why did Xisumavoid take over admin duties? So Generikb left at the end of Season 1, and I think it was me and Hypno that then took over admin duties, sort of running the server and whatnot. But midway through Season 2, I had a moment where I decided to kind of step up and say that we needed some leadership, so I became a steward of the server, so to speak, and helped us have meetings and make decisions, and it was around then that I kind of took over pretty much most of the admin duties, which I've been doing to this day. How many hermits were on the server when you first joined? Which ones were you friends with at that point, and how did you meet them? So I wasn't friends with everyone at that point, but pretty much most of us. I think there were 9 of us at the very beginning, and we had all met one another through the Minecraft scene on YouTube. Back then you would actually message people using YouTube messages, and it was a way for channels to communicate with one another, and so we had some friendly network going on. We watched each other's videos, we would promote one another, and so on. And so Generikb, who I watched his videos and was friends with, he contacted me and said, I want to start a server, bring some friends along. So I invited Sokar, Corrales, Biffa, Kirshar, and Red Eyes to come along with me, and him and a couple of his friends made up the first Hermitcraft group. Who pays for the server costs? It is actually split between most of us. Basically, once a year we ask people to chip in, and those that can chip in, and we divide it up equally and pay for the server that way. How much is the world file size? Currently, at this point in time, it is 3.6 gigabytes. That is pretty big. However, we recently trimmed it using a program that looks for chunks that have been loaded for less than a minute. So if someone's just flown by an area and generated some chunks, those have now been deleted to trim the world size. And of course, we trim the end dimension quite frequently as well. This will probably end up being about 4 to 4.5 gigabytes by the end of the season, I reckon. What mods, data packs do you guys use to have mob heads, player heads, and other custom features? We actually don't have any mods at all. We use data packs, and you can get them on Vanilla Tweaks. There's a URL you can visit, and here you can see a list of all of the different data packs that we use. If you go to the data packs page, you'll then be able to see these with more detail, and you can select and pick the ones you want to use. Why do you say vanilla survival if you have data packs? Well, this comes down to a definition of what vanilla survival is. To me, when we say vanilla, we're talking about a game that hasn't been modded, and data packs in my mind aren't modded. Of course, you can use them to do that feel like modded or really change and bend the game, and so there really should be a distinction there, but it's just what I do. When I say vanilla, it means a vanilla game, and to me, data packs and what you can do with data packs is a part of that. If and when there was a seanson 7, would you revisit the amplified terrain idea? It's probably not going to be popular among other hermits, but whenever the discussion for Season 7 comes around, I will be championing the idea of amplified terrain. I would love to play on amplified again. We did it in Season 3. It was kind of a hindrance, even though the worlds looked amazing. It was kind of difficult, but now that we got the elytra and rockets, it really feels like playing in amplified terrain could really be something special. What are you planning for in Season 7? Personally, what I'm going to do next season when it rolls round is be a bit more of a hermit, go out on my own, and I want to live in an environment where I'm going to spend a lot of time and slowly transform that area over time. I don't want to have all my projects split up and separated around the world. I kind of want to have an immersive base environment that I can take care of, make it look gorgeous, and then spend a lot of time in that gorgeous environment. How long in advance do you have to prepare for a new season, and what are some of the things that you do to prepare? I think with each season that's gone by, we've taken more and more time as a group to talk about what we want to do in the next season. So I imagine for Season 7, there will probably be a lot of preparation time. We generally discuss what our personal plans are and then what our communal plans, what are we going to do together, and it's a really good idea to have those ideas really fleshed out so you can do something that lasts a long time, like the way we've been slowly transforming the island this season. And of course this involves looking through seeds and figuring out what data packs we're going to have running and things like that. When does Season 6 end? I hope you can keep a secret, because I'm going to tell you, it ends before Season 7 starts. I know that's not what you're asking. There really is no discussion about when the season is going to end at the moment. Everyone's loving it, having a great time, not really thinking about Season 7. How long will the season last? It is very hard to say. It still feels like this season has a lot of legs. It's still a lot of fun. I think the one thing we can say is it's going to be Hermitcraft's longest season to date. I think the longest one previously was Season 2, which was about a year and a half. And already we're starting to approach that with this season, right? I think we're a year and a couple of months into it. When does exactly one season end? Well, exactly specifies that you want a very precise number, and if you were to look at the history of Hermitcraft, there is actually no set in stone method for when a season starts or ends. There's never been a set time span. It's just something we figure out based on how the season is going. So there is no exact length of a season, basically. What is your end goal for Season 6? If you mean me personally, it is to wrap up all of the projects that I've been doing. I kind of want everything that I've approached to be finished by the end of it. Of course, that means I'm going to be starting some new projects and finishing them as well. I'm not in just a mode to get everything done. And in terms of the group, I think the end goal is to finish the Season 6 main islands and to have all of that area beautified and turned into something fantastic. Who usually shows up at the Hermitcraft meetings? Well, there is one person who will remain unnamed. In fact, I'm not going to mention any names here, but there's one person we can never get to turn up to a meeting no matter how hard we try. But in general, there is like a core of us that are there for every meeting. There's some that can make every other and not as many, and that's just because we all got lives and commitments. There's time zones and whatnot going on. But for the most part, I'd say most of the active hermits turn up for most of the meetings. Do the hermits have meetings on a regular time, daily, weekly, monthly, or is it most off the cuff as needed? Well, we actually have a day of the week and a specific time which pretty much every hermit can be available on for the most part. And so we have a monthly meeting that revolves around that day and time of day. And then that tends to get moved around though. So sometimes we do meetings every other week, and then sometimes it can be back-to-back weeks. It just tends to fluctuate based on what's going on the server. But the main thing is that we have this one time where pretty much everyone can get together, and that is very, very valuable to have. How many people have been in each season so far? How has the server grown? Well, what I'm not going to do is spend my time digging and rummaging around looking for an exact number, but I'll tell you that in Season 1 there was a period where we had quite a lot of recruitment, and then things calmed down. We went into Season 2, and for a long time there was a lot of patchy recruitment, bringing on people who didn't really stick around and left. In Season 3 that got a lot better. We started to really think through who we were inviting and what we wanted to do with ourselves as a group. And I think from Season 4 onwards has been the point where it's really become a very solidified thing. Everyone I think who's joined has pretty much stuck with us, and recruiting is slowly dwindling down from season to season as we have a big core group and we don't really need to introduce a lot of people to it. So I'd say it took us time to find our footing, you know. Back in the day there was a lot of recruitment of people who didn't really stick around, and then slowly over time we really smoothed things out on that front. Will you be ending the season once 1.15 comes out? I think it's very unlikely this will happen because 1.15 is going to be a smaller update and it's already been hinted it will come out before the end of the year. So that means just a few months to develop and release it, and we're really enjoying Season 6 at the moment. So it seems to me it's very likely we're probably going to see this world go through 3 different updates and probably into 2020. It's crazy to say that, but 2020 is almost here. Is Hermitcraft on Bedrock or Java? Please answer. Now, Bedrock and Java do kind of look different from one another, and I can personally tell when I'm looking at a video what version of the game it is, but if you can't, it is indeed Java Edition, and we tend to play on the stable major updates. The snapshots have become too buggy, and they remove the use of things like Optifine, so for the most part we're playing on Java, and most of the time we're playing on a major update. Why don't you and the other Hermits try to play on Bedrock Edition next season? It was actually a couple of seasons ago in a meeting we were discussing Bedrock Edition, and it looked like, you know, a couple of years away Bedrock would become the major edition and we'd probably have to transition from Java to Bedrock, but that really hasn't happened. The snapshots and the development of the game very much still focused around the Java edition, and the Bedrock edition of the game still hasn't addressed some of its clunky controls and quirks and differences between the two versions that make them feel quite different to play. And until Bedrock edition does that, I don't think it's going to benefit playing on that edition of the game over Java. Even though Java has some serious performance issues, it's just a nicer version of the game to play, and so it seems very likely that we're going to stick on playing Java. How do you get your server running so smooth? We have huge issues with chunk loading since updating to 1.14.4. It is unfortunate, but the general trend is that each update brings in a lot of new entities and a lot of new features, and that just slows down the performance of the game. The reason that our server performs pretty well is because we basically brought the best hardware you can get at the time and just dedicated it all to running Minecraft. If you're running a server through a control panel or some sort of hosting site, the chances are you're on a shared machine, which means you get a portion of the resources of the hardware, and that really, you know, degrades the performance of the game. So we've got a super duper powerful server, and then the only thing that's running on it is our Hermitcraft server. How do you get into Hermitcraft? And if you do get into Hermitcraft, do you have to be on a PC? I'm assuming you mean get recruited and become a member of Hermitcraft. That just takes someone doing something similar out there on YouTube, being successful with it and showing that they can make an amazing content. And then if we feel like we're like-minded people, there's a chance that we might try and recruit someone who we think would fit into the group. And then of course you do need a PC because you've got to play Java Edition. So unless you can play that on a Mac, which I don't think you can, you're going to need a PC. How many hours have you spent in the server? For this season so far, it's 105 days that I've spent logged in as of recording this video. I could download all the old worlds and find all the statistics, and yeah, I'm not going to do that though, and I don't think the statistics go all the way back to season 1 either, but yes, a seriously large amount of time has been spent playing Hermitcraft. If a hermit leaves, do you stay in contact? Do you still hang out with them, or do you lay your focus on the active players? Saying lay your focus sounds a little mechanical. I mean, the reality is we're all friends, and sometimes friends lose interest in the shared activities that you do, and you move on, and that means that you tend to see less of people. Now, everyone who's been in Hermitcraft has pretty much left on good terms, and some people I'm still in contact with on a regular basis, and others not so much, but it's just like real life, really. You know, you have friendship groups, you do activities together, and those things change and people move on, but in general it's all in good spirit. Can a shop sell the same item another shop sells? If not, how can Sahara sell stuff like the rockets, and what are the treasure gems used for? So essentially it's a free market, there's no restrictions on who can do what. That's kind of an agreed thing, anyone can sell whatever they like, so if someone chooses to sell something another person or company or whatever you want to call them does, then that's what they do. It's just like in real life, you know, you can buy clothes from one brand or from another brand, and in essence they are competing with one another. As for the treasure gems, they're a little feature that we added in. You can find them in treasure chests, and then you can go trade with the villagers in the statue of Hermity, and when you trade with them, you can convert those treasure gems into different types of mob head. Who decides what mods to put and when to update the server? Well, first of all, there's no major mods running on the server that change gameplay or do anything like that. And if there were to be so, it would be agreed upon as a group, which is the same way we decide when to update the server. We have discussions, we listen to one another, figure out what concerns there might be, and things that we need to do on the server, and then we come to, a decision. Hey, we're going to do it on this day, and then we update. This question read, simply, what mods, question mark. So mods keep coming up over and over again, and I say, hey, we're not modded. It's not technically true. We do actually use a mod loader, and when this mod loader runs with 0 mods, it is literally the vanilla game. The only thing that we have in there is something that removes some checks between the client and the server when you fly around or get in and out of boats and use minecarts, and this is to eliminate some of the rubber banding that you see happen on the server or failing to fly with a rocket. And it's a very minor little change, and it doesn't really change any of the gameplay other than smoothing out players being able to move around the server. Is there only one HermitCraft server or several of them? There is only one server running the Season 6 world. We do on the physical server have additional worlds that we can use for other things. They very rarely get used, but in essence we could fire up another server for recording Hardcore Hermits or something like that. But yeah, to answer your question, there's only one HermitCraft server. I was reading that you tried to make the server public for an event, but people got upset because they obviously want enough spaces on the server for everyone to join. So this happened back in Season 2 of HermitCraft, I believe. We took the world download mid-season and put it onto a different server. That server was then open to the public during an event. There were some limitations like the amount of people that could log on or how long you could stay logged in for, something like 10 minutes. And unfortunately what happened is that people saw it as being promised something, like they would get to see the world from their own computer game, and then they weren't able to get in. So a lot of people wanted to participate and only a small people could get in, and we tried to do that a second time, making that clear, and we still got a lot of backlash, and people were very emotional about wanting to come on but not being able to get in. And the idea was that we wanted to create an event where we could at least do something nice for a few people instead of doing nothing at all, but that didn't go down well at all, and so we've just gotten rid of that idea, and it's probably never going to happen again because only a small amount of people get to come on, and then you have lots and lots of angry people who didn't get on. Would you ever consider doing a fan contest and whoever wins goes onto HermitCraft? As you know, we make group decisions, so if we were to do something like this, it would take everyone's group input to figure out if we would do it or not. I personally would just say no to this. I think it would disappoint a lot of people, just kind of like the previous example does, and I don't think it's the best way to go around recruiting someone to join your group. Putting them through a competition, to me, sounds kind of mean. Are you okay? You sounded sad again. I get comments like this every now and then. I don't know why this was tagged as a HermitCraft question, but I'll answer it. Sometimes when I'm recording I'm very energetic, maybe it's early in the morning and I'm up and ready to go, and other times I'm trying to get stuff done, maybe it's been a long day and it's the evening. These things are just going to have an effect on my voice. Sometimes I'm going to sound a little bit tired, which might make me sound sad, and other times I'll be energetic and in the moment, and that's just the way things go. What has been your favourite season so far and why? I always say Season 6 when I'm asked this question because it's been so unbelievably amazing, and it really is the best, but it's not over yet. So if we were to look at the previous ones, I'd say it's probably tied between 4 and 2. I just had really good experiences on there, and I also think in Season 2 I probably did one of my most grindiest, craziest projects ever that I always look back at really fondly. So if it wasn't 6, I'd say it'd be tied between 2 and 4. How can I be a hermit? Well, you'd need to make Minecraft videos, and they'd need to be pretty exceptional. You'd also need to do them for a really long time, and this means playing survival Minecraft in a similar style to we do. Then you'd have to get noticed by us and convince us just for your videos alone that you would be worth coming into the group. That is a very small margin of people, and so what I often say is rather than think about how I can get into HermitCraft, you should be thinking about how you can create your own HermitCraft. How can you create something that one day other people will be interested in. And you can look to your friends or people that you know to do that together. And so I always think it's better to say you should focus on doing your own thing than trying to get in to something else. Can you guys make a second fan server? Bit of a silly question, but just asking. The only silly questions are the ones that don't get asked. If you've got a question, you should always ask because there'll be an answer for you. Unless someone's being mean and they're not going to answer. But anyway, second fan server, I'm not aware there's even a fan server, especially not an official one. So our stance on this is that we wouldn't endorse in any way anyone using our name or doing anything with it in the names of a fan server. Reason being is that we have a lot of time and effort that goes into this project alone, and to oversee something bigger like a fan server or a public server would just take too much time and energy. There'd be too many concerns about how our brand name was being used, and so for that reason there should be no fan servers that use our name as far as I'm aware. What are the stories, if any, behind each hermit joining? How did they come to join? Well, every hermit that joins has a story and a reason behind, and most of the time it's generally just, oh, we like these people, let's invite them, and you say, hey, do you want to join Hermitcraft? And usually the answer is yes. But I'll share with you my personal favourite one, which is simply just recruiting Doc and Efo for the fact that those were the first two YouTubers that I was watching. They inspired me to get into this and do it myself, and so when they joined Hermitcraft, it felt like a full circle moment, like the stars had aligned and wow, Doc and Efo are now on our wonderful Hermitcraft server, so that'll be one of my favourite little stories from people joining Hermitcraft. What's the one thing you don't like about the Hermitcraft server? I would say the keep game inventory rule. I would love to just play with keeping your inventory on. Death to me is so boring after playing this game many years. Like, I want to do big ambitious projects. I don't want creepers blowing me up when I don't notice them and having to run around getting my gear back. That stuff is super annoying, which is why you'll notice I don't die a lot on the server. I am very cautious and try and keep myself as safe as possible, because the worst thing is going to have to make all your tools again and spending a couple of hours getting back to where you were a moment ago. Don't you feel the shopping district is too small now? Maybe after Hermitland events, Hermits should make over this area. The shopping district certainly is cramped, but we recently expanded it, so there's a new area for new shops to go in. And after Hermitland, I don't know what's going to be happening, but essentially it is what it is. I don't think we're going to go in there and give it a makeover, because we like all the shops. They're sort of like a history of what's unfolded, right? It certainly is cramped, but like I said, there's a new area in which to expand into. I was wondering, were you following the kingdomcraft guys on YouTube before they joined Hermitcraft? I was actually completely oblivious to what kingdomcraft was. I only knew of Python and Scar, and I didn't realise that they were members, and my introduction to kingdomcraft was when we started talking about recruiting them. When are you going to invite an Australian to the server to represent the viewers from down under? I think representation would be a really strange reason to recruit someone, because Australia is just one country and there are hundreds and hundreds on this planet, and a Hermitcraft with 300 odd members would just be absolute madness. So it's never about anything specific, it's always about who's this person and what kind of content are they creating. They are the main factors for bringing someone into Hermitcraft. How the people is selected to join in Hermitcraft. For example, Grian. How and why he was selected. It's kind of like I just said, the reason wasn't because he was from Britain or because of some other arbitrary factor. It's because he made amazing and great content that we just loved, and we felt like he'd really fit into the group. Any tips or tricks regarding how to treat Spawn as an admin? Some of you may have noticed the last couple of seasons of Hermitcraft, we moved the spawn location and we move it to somewhere with an ocean, and then there's hardly anything in it apart from maybe an iron farm, and this is because it's loaded whenever the server is running. So if people play in the area and build lots of things, they're always loaded, and that means they're always putting a bit of a drain on the server. So if you're an admin, I'd encourage you to pick a spawn location with not a lot in it and make sure players don't go there to build mob farms and such. Off camera, do you call each other by your real life names or by your Minecraft names? Absolutely everyone uses their Minecraft names to talk to each other. What inspires you and the other hermits to be creative and make creations of your own? What helps you pull through and push you completely to finish a massive project? Well, inspiration is its own thing. You're either a creative person or maybe more of a practical person, and of course Hermitcraft being what it is, draws in the more creative types of people. As for what helps me personally push through and finish these big projects that I do, it's actually all of you, the audience. I really do feel like knowing that people are enjoying and sharing my experiences with me gives me a huge drive in which to get things finished. Because it's not just me imagining it, now I need to, let all of you see it as well. And so that's always been a really big factor for me. Do you think Hermitcraft would be possible if you guys wouldn't make videos about it? Would Hermits stay motivated enough? I think it is certainly possible for something like Hermitcraft to exist without people making videos about it, but because we're all full-time YouTubers and this is essentially what we do for a living, that is the reason that it is what it is for some parts. So if that were to all disappear tomorrow, I imagine many of us would be looking for new jobs and Hermitcraft probably wouldn't survive something like that. So it's part of the ecosystem that, the fact that we are on videos on YouTube makes this thing what it is. What will the Hermits do when someone's base gets raided and no one knows who it was? This has never been a problem for us at all, so yeah, got no answer for you. How do you guys get all the custom heads? And I'm not talking about mobs, but for example, mini chests, etc. Well, at the base of the statue of Hermity, we can go inside and we can go and trade with villagers there, and that's where we get the mini heads from. Has Mumbos Farms ever started a fire in that server room? Not that I know of. I've had no reports of a fire in the server room, but Mumbo has a reputation, and to be fair, a lot of the crashes that he caused happened back in like season 4 and 5, and this season's been absolutely fine from that perspective. How does your community handle the honor system? Cheating, using spectator mode on the separate account? I think trust is the main thing. We all trust one another not to abuse something like spectator mode. But then again, spectator mode can't really be abused that much anyway. I mean, you can sort of go and look in caves for diamonds, but it doesn't x-ray through the walls or do anything like that. And beyond that, there's not a lot else you can really do to cheat, air quotes. So, we all trust one another. We're all mature adults here, and it really isn't an issue. Having played a bit of multiplayer now, I know how rare it is to find other players you can trust not to cheat and steal, etc. How did you guys all originally find out you could trust each other? Again, I think maturity and the fact that we're adults plays a large part in why there isn't an issue like this. However, I can think of another reason why. This isn't a regular multiplayer server. This is kind of a big deal. And, you're all Hermitcraft fans. We're Hermitcraft fans too. We all love what's being created here. And, of course, we wouldn't want to jeopardize that in any way at all. So that plays into it as well, It's like a positive feedback loop here. Are you on Area 77's side or the Hippies' side? I would probably side with the Hippies, because, you got to stick it to the man, as they say. What is the IP address of the server? The IP is how Hermits connect. It stands for Internet Protocol. It's the principal communications protocol in the Internet Protocol suite for relaying datagrams across network boundaries. Its routing function enables internet working and essentially allows Hermits to connect to the server. Have you got any further plans for the Christmas area? Yes, when it's Christmas again, I'm going to go back there and finish what I didn't finish last year. Will you post a mid-season world download? We've never done this before and we have no plans to change what we do. We put out a world download when we're finished playing in the world at the end of the season. Will there be a download at the end of the season? I just answered your question a moment ago. Why are you not able to see into the future and know what questions I'm answering in this video, eh? Jeez. What is one of your favourite builds, pranks and events in all of the Hermitcraft seasons? Many of the Hermits have done amazing things, but I'll always remember my own experiences just a little better, for obvious reasons. And I always remember the prank that we did on Zombie Cleo, where we turned her museum into an aquarium. That's just an absolute classic for me. I love that prank, it turned out so well. Have you lost motivation for Hermitcraft at all for any length of time in this season of Hermitcraft? This season, not at all. Last season, a little bit. Generally, as time has gone on, I've gotten more and more consistent. The one time I really did lose motivation was at the end of Hermitcraft Season 1. It just felt like the whole thing was coming to an end and no one was really talking about doing a second season. So thank goodness someone brought that idea up, because it could have all ended there. If you go and look back at those old videos, there's like literally weeks where I don't actually do a Hermitcraft episode. Are we going to see the vengeance of a certain Evil X anytime soon? The reality is, I feel like I'm pretty much done with Evil X. If I get a wave of inspiration or an idea that manifests into something, I won't be shy of seeing where that goes and maybe bringing back Evil X, but for now, it's not really something that I think about anymore. What has been your favourite minigame in Hermitcraft ever? I'm going to have to say Tango's Boombox from Season 3. That felt like its own game inside of Minecraft, you know, it was so much fun to play, and it was an absolute blast. Get it? Because of the TNT? Anyway, if you've never seen that, go look up Tango Tech Boombox. You know, I think we should bring that back maybe this season, it's such a good game. How many Hermits are full-time YouTubers, and how many have another job? I think 90 to 95% of us are full-timers at this point, and I know we got one member who is retired, which you could say is being a full-time YouTuber if that's what you do. So yeah, pretty much all of us are full-timers. I've always wanted to see more behind-the-scenes stuff about the server and community. I'm assuming you have a Discord chat. What sort of things do you use it for? We have a Discord server. We use it for organisation, general chit-chat, hanging out, coordinating things. We have channels for spoilers, for collaborations, and just a lot of organisational stuff that's in there. And of course we use it for meetings with voice chat as well. Do you consider Zloy and pixelriffs to be added to the whitelist? If not, what do you think of them? I think Zloy and pixelriffs are amazing. They do a fantastic job with the Hermitcraft recap. A lot of people go on about them being whitelisted so they can use camera accounts to look around. That'll probably be more difficult for them than watching the videos and using that for their recap show. So that's probably not a thing that's going to happen. How many of the Hermits watch the recap, or do you watch it? I watch every episode from start to end, and I know that a lot of the other Hermits do as well. I don't think everyone watches every single recap, but I know a lot of us are aware of them and watch the recaps. Will you update to 1.15? Not while it's in snapshot mode, because then we wouldn't have access to Optifine, but once it's out, it's quite likely we'll be updating. What happened with the HRM project? Well, I'm not sure of anything in particular, but the whole project is kind of not far from being complete, but obviously we're all a little bit distracted with Hermit Lands at the moment, and so once that's concluded, I'm sure we'll be getting back to the main island and continuing with projects like the HRN. How do you think the newbies would change things for the Hermits, including yourself? Well, I think a lot of us will end up building bee farms, and since they're kind of slow and don't really have too much of a use at the moment, I don't think it's really going to change the game in any significant way. How many farm did you make in Hermitcraft, and which one do you love the most? Being the sort of player that builds farms over and over again every single season, there are loads of crazy ones that I've built. My favourite this season though, I think, is the Chunk of Death. I would say the raid farm, but I didn't design that one myself, whereas the chunk farm was just taking some very simple principles, digging a big hole and having all the mobs spawn at the bottom on the wither roses. It was really simple, and it provides me with tons and tons of drops. Will there ever be another modded HermitCraft series? There was actually a short-lived one just a couple of months ago, and you can probably tell from the lack of participation that most of us in Hermitcraft are just generally focused on vanilla these days. So at the current moment in time, I'd say it's extremely unlikely there'll be a modded series anytime soon, but you never know what's going to happen. We've done it in the past, maybe we'll do it again. How often do you watch each other's videos? Well, I can only speak for myself. I watch the Hermitcraft recaps, so I have a good idea of what everyone's doing, and every day I tend to watch probably 1 or 2 Hermitcraft episodes. Do you think Hermitcraft will ever disband, and if so, when? Also, will you ever leave Hermitcraft? If we go back to 2014, I probably would never have suspected this would still be going 5 years later, so the reality is it could still be going for another 5 years, and I love doing what I'm doing at the moment. This fits into my lifestyle just fine for me, and so I really don't see a reason to leave or for this to end at this point in time. But of course, all good things do come to an end. Somewhere down the road things will change, but right now I can't really see where that is. Force Tango to play again! Force him! As much as I would love to have Tango playing on the server with us again, you know, he's found something different that he's wanted to do, and he's had a huge success with it, so I can't be nothing but happy for him. And of course, if ever he wanted to come back and play, he'd be more than welcome, but he seems to be really enjoying his modded thing, and I gotta say, I've been enjoying it as well. Who else would you add to the server to play, as it would make it a lot more interesting? If this is a question about who I would personally recruit, I wouldn't recruit anyone new. I'd just love to see some of our inactive hermits come back and start playing again. Do you think the currency system of using diamonds to pay is failing because of the abundance of diamonds possessed by all the hermits? I actually think the abundance of diamonds is the reason the economy is succeeding. You see, we place a lot of value in diamonds, and I think a lot of us don't realise that once you've got several stacks of blocks of them, they really do become quietly useless considering we have mending and we hold on to our best tools and armour for a long, long time. But we still think they're valuable, and that's what's important really. It's just like money IRL. You know, what is it good for? You can burn it to keep yourself warm, but if we all believe in its value, then we can trade with it. What is your favourite thing to do on the HermitCraft server? You know, I was going to say that it could be anything, it's just about doing the right thing at the right moment and feeling it. But actually, I'm going to say live streaming. I always love live streaming from the server. There's never a bad live stream, it seems. Can you create a special episode that all of the hermits are there to talk to each other, or create a movie that how HermitCraft is being created? I think we'd all love to do something really big and ambitious and epic, like a movie scale, or have all of us involved and coordinated. But that is unfortunately the problem. Coordination, a lot of time and effort, and we all have our own channels to maintain, so it's unlikely something that ambitious would ever happen. How do y'all get/find so many diamonds? Well, as you know, most of us are full-timers, and that means we can do the grind. We go branch mining to get the diamonds. How does it feel to be one of the oldest hermits on the server? Oldest as in been here the longest. It does feel very special, it feels humbling to have been around for this long, I've got to say. What was your favourite collaboration project to work on? I've got to say the T is agency, and the Logfellas. Those were the two collaborative projects that I think I enjoyed the most. How many hours do you think you spent on Hermitcraft or Minecraft overall? It'd be pretty tricky to make an accurate estimation, but I'm pretty sure if I could be given the exact number, I would just be like, yep, it's crazy, but it's true. How much influence do you think the HermitCraft server has on game development? If you mean the game development of Minecraft, I wouldn't be surprised if it did have an influence, but I don't feel like I've ever seen it directly. It's not like you mention one thing one day in Hermitcraft and the next day it appears in a snapshot, right? So the only people that can really answer that question are the devs themselves. Besides on Twitter, do you or any of the other hermits get contacted by game developers? I get contacted all the time by email, not really on Twitter. There's actually whole websites dedicated to hooking up YouTubers with game developers so they can promote the games. Like, this is like an industry now, you know, it's business, and there is a lot of communication between the two sides. How does one get an SMP like Hermitcraft alive so well? I've been a part of a few of them and all have essentially died out in terms of activity. I think one of the key things to do is to have fun and to have success. To keep the people in the group happy with what they're doing, but also for it to become successful as well. That is why Hermitcraft is still here, I guess, because it has been a success. What happened with all the districts? I find these questions kind of confusing because they don't really ask an actual question, so I'd say in future be more specific with what you want to know about a district. What is your favourite area on the whole server? Since we mentioned districts a moment ago, let's actually narrow down on the districts. You probably know what I'm going to say. I'm biased. It's the Tower Bay area. I love that place, and of course it's because I spent loads of time there building it. So yeah, that'll be my favourite area on the main island. What has been your favourite moment overall? Definitely episode 299 of Hermitcraft Professional Minecrafters. Nothing will ever top that moment. It is the funniest thing that's ever happened on Hermitcraft, and whenever I go back and watch it, I am always in stitches. What's been the largest build you've completed or are working on in Season 6? Tower Bay is definitely the biggest ongoing project, but the biggest individual build is my base, my storage system, built around the Guardian farm. How do you come up with ideas for things to build in Hermitcraft? Well, I'm a creative type. I'm always thinking about how I can change, remix, create, do things, but the real trick is to write every single idea down, because you have your days where you're not really thinking about those things, and if you've written them down, then you're like, oh, I know what I want to do now, and you can jump on there and get stuff done. What was the biggest scandal in Hermitcraft history? I would have to say Season 2, when the ABBA winnings were robbed. There was loads of diamonds and redstone, all the sorts of valuables and ores, and they got pinched and it led to a courtroom drama, and it was all pretty hysterical. How do you not rage quit when you do a huge derp? I think if I didn't have an audience, I probably would rage quit on some occasions. I would step back and go, that's not worth it. But because I have an audience, it makes it so much easier to turn something silly into a laugh for everyone and to make fun of it, and that means I can just pick myself back up and get on with it, you know? Is Hermit Quest or Hermit Wars coming back? I have no idea. I personally would love to do them again, and I think if they were ever to come back, it is probably most likely in the form of a live stream one-off event, but I'm not the person to ask since I don't run those, but I would love to play them again. I was wondering, how do you guys farm flowers? You probably get a lot of red from iron farms, but I'd like to know how you get the other colours. It was very early on in this season that me and Python teamed up. We found a forest flower biome, and we picked a spot in which it had all of the different flower types to then build a farm that spanned across it. So for that reason, we have a farm that uses bone meal and flying machines, and it gives us all of the flowers and colours that we need. Why don't you change your episodes when a new season starts? You know, I just love the number getting bigger, and when it came to season 2, when I could have first reset it, I was like, no, I want it to continue because I've been building this thing up and it's still HermitCraft. And of course, the bigger the number it gets, the less there is a temptation to reset it. So you're probably never going to see that number go back down to 1. Did you originally plan for HermitCraft to go on for several seasons, or at the beginning, did you think it would just be a one-off thing? Since I didn't create it, I can't really say, but I think Generikb intended it to just be a one-off, a short-term thing, but those of us that were playing on there wanted to continue, and I think even when we started Season 2, we probably could have never seen this far into the future. When will the series end? I mean, I love the series, but is there a final goal you all can work towards? Yes, Season 6 has a final goal, which is to transform that main island and finish all of the projects on it. Doesn't mean we have to complete that, and also completing it doesn't mean the season ends. Will you do a world tour, please? Since I'm releasing this video when I'm away on holiday, there's a good chance that before or after this there'll also be a world tour video, but if not, I don't really do them that often, so the only time I tend to do something like that is if I know I'm going to be going away. Do you feel nostalgia for past seasons? I do actually have a lot of nostalgia for previous seasons, but for me nostalgia has to be a positive thing. I got to look back fondly whilst looking forward as well, knowing that we had good times and we're going to make more of them in the future. What I don't do is kind of look back with that attitude of, oh, it was so good then and we can't go back. That's of no value to me. So whenever I look backwards into the seasons, it's always in a positive and fond way. What's HermitCraft's future? Well, that is an open-ended question, isn't it? And I'm not going to answer it. I'm going to actually let all of you answer it. So go to the comments down below and let me know what you think HermitCraft's future is. Don't just think 1 year ahead. Think 5, 10. What do you think is going to become of HermitCraft? I'm looking forward to reading your comments. While you're down there, be sure to leave a like because we're at the end of the video. I hope you've enjoyed this different format. Of course, let me know what you thought of it, and I'll see you soon with another episode. So ciao for now, and bye-bye.